Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife. Who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine till all success be nobleness and every gain divine. When I was in school, you know, we used to sing it something like this. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties, above the fruited plain. Look here, I'm talking about America, sweet America. You know, God done shed his grace on thee. He crowned thy good, saving brotherhood from sea to shining sea. America, I love you, America, because my God done shed his grace on thee, and you ought to love him for it, because he crowned thy good. He told me he would save his brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Shining sea.
Welcome back. This is David Penn. You found the Professor Penn podcast. This is episode number 122, Israel. That's right, Israel. I'm going to talk about Israel and some of the things that are going on here in Minnesota, because the global and the local are quite interrelated. Started out with a beautiful piece of music, Ray Charles. We haven't played any Ray Charles on the podcast. And boy, you know, I have to say, I was there when Ray Charles first started playing his own version of America the Beautiful. That was groundbreaking when that broke into the mainstream. We'd never heard anything like that. When I say we, I'm talking about we, the mainstream of America, of which I was firmly entrenched at the time, watching my 4 television stations, because that's what we had was 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And here comes Ray Charles. We knew who he was, and he came in and, man, here's a black guy that was known for playing jazz and blues and great singer and edgy, and he broke out and he started playing country music. He put a country music album out. That blew everybody's mind, and it blew everybody's mind. Then he came up with this America the Beautiful thing, and now that's normal. So if you're younger, you're used to people getting in front of stadiums and, uh, singing the national anthem or singing America the Beautiful and doing it in their own way, breaking out of the the L7 mold. When I say L7, there's an L and there's a 7 called square, the square mold. Hey, like you're a square. We were all squares. And here comes this other cultural influence of jazz and blues and a different community, a different subculture of America influencing how we thought about our national anthem, our national identity. It changed it. But here was a black man beautifully expressing the sentiment that many of us hold about America the Beautiful. And boy, we loved it. We loved it. And I remember, geez, about, gosh, it's got to be 10 years ago. It was Christmas time. And, I play the piano and I sing, and I was sitting down. Maybe I'd had a couple of Macallans. I don't remember. Maybe that's why I don't remember. And I started playing along with, Silent Night. And I came up with the reggae version of Silent Night, and it was cool. I liked it. And other people liked it because the L7, that square mold, had been broken. And it allowed for creativity and for freedom to pour in and for people to find a new sense of community and belonging. I just love it. Hope you do too. June 13th, Thursday night, June 13th, Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Uh, we've got a lot of things to go through tonight. Uh, Last night, we're going to talk about Tanner and I were fortunate enough to go to the first town hall held in support of Royce White's candidacy for U.S. Senate here in Minnesota. That's going to take some time to talk about. That was very uplifting, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Tanner. Good morning, Tanner.
Good morning, David.
Let me just pray. I actually, this morning, for the first time, thought, maybe I won't pray. And then I thought about all the people that like the prayer. But for those of you that like the prayer, you don't see the feedback because we're getting a lot of left-leaning people and a lot of atheist people, and they don't like it. And I'm very sensitive to our community. If you look at our founding documents, it really does not define how I'm to pray. It just acknowledges that there's a search for truth. And I don't want to alienate anybody, but at the same time, I want to bring people into the search for truth. So for those people who are watching that don't believe in God or are convinced that that's a fairy tale, I just want to stand in testimony to you that if you believe that, uh, you know, you're correct. For you, there will be no God. I think Henry Ford said, think you can, think you can't. Either way, you're correct. I want to say it again because that was about material things, but it really falls over into this spiritual realm. Think you can, think you can't. Either way, you're correct. So, matters of faith, that's building something in yourself. You're actually creating a connection with an unseen world. And we've talked about this, and I want to say it again. In the Asian philosophy, which I think is important for us to know because we can gain from all these different cultural uh, expressions, just like we gain from Ray Charles singing America the Beautiful. That was a contribution to everyone's life. Well, the Asian philosophy, which is Chinese philosophy, acknowledges that there's three domains. The domain that we can see and hear and taste and touch, the material world that with our senses, we can experience it directly by ourselves. The real. We know it's real. At least it's real for us because we're part of it. We're equipped to monitor it. And then there's another realm that's equally real, but it requires scientific instrumentation like microscopes and telescopes, which enhance and extend our natural sensing or sensation, the the physical uh, organs that we have to tell us about our world. Those scientific instruments enhance them. So we've got what we can see ourselves and taste ourselves and hear ourselves, et cetera, and so on, and what scientific instruments can add to expand that awareness. But then there's another realm that the Chinese philosophy acknowledges, and that's a realm we know it's out there. We just can't get there. And science is continuously trying to expand its techniques to give us insight into that unknown realm. And we're getting pretty far down that road, right? But if you don't believe and you don't want to believe, there's nothing to believe in. I mean, that's just the way it's going to work. But if I've built it, I know it works. And you can say I'm crazy, and okay, please call me crazy. But I have built since I've been very, very young a connection to, an awareness of, and skills within that third domain in my search for truth. It's a skill based. It's a skill, and the Old Testament, the New Testament teaches me and could teach you how to build those skills. Well, that's what they teach in the military. And you say, well, that's kind of strange. No, if you're actually going to be in combat, the need or the development of extrasensory perception will keep your ass alive. If you're out in the forest, you're much more sensitive to the natural environment to keep your ass alive. Flipping that around, it's about human well-being. Human well-being includes the concept of keep your ass alive. So humans have developed awareness of and access to this unseen world because it's good for our health and well-being. And I believe that when we remove that from a culture, people become progressively, progressively more unwell because they're cut off from the source of energy and from insight and from truth. So you take a look at our culture. Incredible levels of mental illness, disease, conflict. Could it be because since the beginning of the progressive educational era, generation after generation of students were no longer taught about the search for truth, but were instead taught what to think and about the scientific and material world, leaving out the non-material world, left it out of the education. We don't get that in high school or college anymore. When I went to university in the 70s, it wasn't part of the deal. So I can only imagine. Well, I don't have to imagine. I got kids in college right now. I know what they're learning. And it's not the search for truth, it's the search for technique. And there is a big difference. So I'm very sensitive about this. I don't want to alienate people. I want you to listen, but I'm going to continue to do this because, first of all, a lot of the audience really responds to it, and that turns the on switch. It takes the profane life that we live, or the non-sacred, the everyday life is not sacred. That's why they call it a holiday, like a holiday. It's a holy day. It's a special day. So when we come to, let's say, Christmas, we call it a holiday. It's a holiday. But really, that is Holy day because we're going to turn the on switch on and we're going to think about the search for truth instead of the search for cash, which everybody's doing every day because we got to sweat for our daily bread. So if you don't like the prayer because it mentions a creator, just stay with the concept of thankfulness, thanksgiving, community, being together to turn the on switch on so that for the next hour and a half, we could have a special environment, a special time together where we're really trying to search for truth. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for creating the light and the dark. Well, something created it. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for creating me in your image. I know that we can redact this one. In fact, somebody that I really respected used to say, man created God in man's image. That's something to think about. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for making me an American. That's kind of cool to be an American. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for making me free. I have thanksgiving for my freedom. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for healing the blind. Thank you for healing. For those of us that have disease and find healing, gratefulness for that is very important. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for feeding the people. In the world of abundance, scarcity is not acknowledged. We live in abundance. But if scarcity comes, we'll be thankful for our daily bread. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for releasing the bound. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for raising up the downtrodden. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for creating the heavens and earth. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for directing my path. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for providing for all my needs. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for my American courage. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for crowning America with glory. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for restoring strength to the weary. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds. Thank you for sending your Son to die on the cross that I might be saved. Forgive me, my Father, for I have sinned. Pardon me, my King, for I have willfully transgressed. For you pardon and forgive. Blessed are you, God and King of all worlds, who is gracious and ever willing to forgive. I've had a couple of relatively sin-free days because I've been so busy. They say that, uh, when you got a lot of time on your hands, that's when you can fall into trouble. And we've been so busy here trying to stay in the tire business and keep our business going because it's so difficult. I watch all this propaganda on X about how great the economy is. Man, they are really BSing the American people, at almost Soviet levels. I'm in the business world. Business sucks, okay? It just sucks. Why do I know it sucks? Tire business, hey, when the tire business sucks, that means people aren't doing anything. Because if you're going to do anything, you got to wear your tires out to get there. So we sell big truck tires. Business is way down. Why is it down? Because there's less goods being bought and sold. We sell car tires. Business is down. Why? People aren't driving anywhere. And I'm looking at all this data that they're putting out about how great Tanner, do you feel like business is good?
No. I mean, in some respects, yes, but not the business that I'm in.
That's the only business you need to care about.
Yeah.
How's your family economy right now? Are you working hard to keep going?
Yeah. We're all kind of struggling.
Y-
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody that I know at least.
And we're looking. I'm looking on X, and every time I look up, these people like Will Stansel, which you don't know who he is, and that's fine. I guess he wants to be somebody, but he's big in Minnesota. I guess he's telling me all the time how great business is. Will, BS, BS, BS. Calling out your BS. It's tough right now. And we were Tanner came as videographer last night. We were at a event in the Twin Cities area, a part of Minnesota called Anoka. And I'm going to share this with you because it doesn't matter what state you're in. This is going on everywhere, but it's really going on here in Minnesota, coming right out of this audience. Free the People Radio. Free the People Radio. The will of the people. The people are coming. A movement. We had an event where we were bringing American citizens together, and they came. Most of them were Republicans, but we had independents there, and we had some leftists there. In fact, I was sitting on my phone, and one of the campaign operatives texted me. He goes, "What do I do? There's leftists in the crowd." I thought, wow, that's great, because the message of the people, the will of the people, it's not left, it's not right, it's not caught up in that polarizing dynamic which is intended to separate the people into two warring camps, because while we're fighting with each other, the people that are running this thing are robbing us. They're just robbing us. We're fighting with each other. It's like causing a fight with the guards at the bank, and while the guards are fighting with each other, the bank robbers come in and clean the place out. That's what we're doing. We're getting cleaned out. That's why business is no good. Can't make any money, because they're taking all the money to protect democracy. Isn't that great? We're going to talk about that tonight. Remember, the title of this night's episode is Israel. We're going to protect democracy. And while we're protecting democracy, I'm paying for it. And I'm being paid. I am being turned into an economic slave. Don't like it. So we all got together. We had a community gathering. Not we all, but in that area, it was a big crowd put together on relatively short notice, room full of people. And Tanner was there as videographer. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
It was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. It was very interesting. It was my first time ever being a part of something like that. So
What did you think?
I thought, I don't know. I didn't have any expectations. I just found it very, very interesting. I liked seeing, like you said earlier, the different faces. But then I had mentioned this morning that a lot of the faces were very just familiar and reminiscent to like my hometown. So I felt very comfortable in that room.
Well, I have to be honest and say it was at a VFW. So it was we weren't meeting out in a cornfield. I mean, it was a community gathering at a key community center. We had a lot of people, and it was really interesting to me also. Royce and I have been working together for several years, and the reason that I work with him, uh, first of all, he's incredibly smart and brave. And what I thought was interesting, and I said, and I was part of orchestrating the event, and I said, man, you just go up there and you talk for an hour off the cuff. He looked at me, he goes, an hour? I said, yes, you need to practice speaking in front of large crowds because you're going to be great at this. He goes, man, I can't do it. 20 minutes. I go, okay. What am I going to do? Argue with him? He's 6'8", 270. Tough argument. So we showed up. The thing started. Oh, he spoke for an hour. And he ranged over such a diverse set of subjects. I mean, people's heads were blown off their shoulders. But here's what I thought was great about it. I've been around for a while, and I've been watching politics since the 1960s. I've never seen that kind of vulnerability, that kind of honesty, that kind of emotional sharing between a candidate, a leader, and his constituents. And when we set up the deal, I said, this is how the deal is going to work. Talk for an hour, and then we're going to have a question and answer session, which I'll moderate. And we're going to answer every question. If we're there till the next morning, till the wee hours of the morning, we're not going to leave until the last citizen has asked their last question. And people are not used to this, right? They're used to a guy showing up in a suit, like Joe Frazier, giving a stump speech, rah, rah, America. And the questions are carefully controlled because they put the questions in the audience, or they have index cards, right? I mean, I've been at political deals where you have to submit your questions on index cards, and then the campaign picks the questions that they want to answer. And the citizens don't ask the questions. They say, Bill W. in the audience has the following question. And then they read it off the index card. I mean, you want to talk about controlling an event. Well, this event was not under control. It was ask any question you want, respond any way you want to. And Royce was not under control. And he said things that this crowd of people had never heard before. And he gored some sacred cows too, which in the search for truth, which is what Free the People Radio is all about. I know my audience likes the fact that we plow into ground that people are not familiar with. We talk about things that are forgotten or have been side railed. We're willing to take leaders that are loved and say, wait a sec, wait. We did the classic last night. Raise your hand if you voted for George W. Bush. Now, you don't know how that's going to go down because there could be still. I've been in crowds where, after I do that and everybody raised their hands and I run down George W. Bush, there's a guy in the crowd that argues with me. Okay. Thank you very much for identifying yourself, Mr. Globalist. But the point is, and I urge all of you, in whatever state you're in, to be delegates to your party and find candidates that are honest. Because here's what the deal is. We got all these candidates that run. Now they all got a wife. And I'm not picking on Ron DeSantis, but boy, doesn't he look great? Good looking dude. Got the wife good looking. Got the kids good looking. Got the intact family. Everything's good. Probably goes to church. I didn't see that part of it. Served the U.S. military. Is a lawyer. Went to Yale. I mean, this guy is right out of central casting. Right out of central casting. And he might be a profoundly righteous person. I don't know him. I'm not knocking him down for it. I'm saying that's the model. Like Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy, when they ran him out there, okay, served PT-109, served the U.S. military, was injured in the war, good looking, had the beautiful wife. Jackie Kennedy had the kids. Nobody knew that he was a degenerate drug user, philanderer. Nobody knew it. We didn't know it. Did you know that John Kennedy was a drug user?
No, I had no clue.
Addict. No, he had his reasons for being an addict, but he was high every day, okay? He was in a lot of pain. He had a disease called Addison's disease, and he had a severe back injury, which was a terrible thing. I mean, it was a military injury. He was a veteran who suffered a terrible, life-altering injury that created a lifetime of pain, which led to a lifetime of narcotics. Isn't that nice? So, and then he and his brother, the Attorney General, Bobby, the father of our current presidential candidate, I mean, these guys never missed an opportunity to bet a woman. They had a competitive sexual competition going on there. You don't know that, do you? There you go.
I mean, there's some good-looking men, so I guess I could have assumed.
Well, I mean, this was the 1960s. Nobody talked about it. On the front end, he was Camelot, the poster child of youth, vigor, family, children, all things that were good. On the backside, this guy was wild. And we go through all of our presidents and all of our politicians, and we always use, every once in a while, a politician runs afoul of somebody. Now, here's a name you don't know, Wilbur Mills. Wilbur Mills was on the House Appropriations Committee. They found him drunk in a fountain in Washington with it was a famous event. I remember the stripper's name, Fanny Fox. Here's a guy, he's consorting with strippers. And, I don't know who he ran afoul of, but, oh my gosh, a stripper. So these politicians, all are human beings. They all have feet of clay. They're all doing their deals. I mean, I know this phone. You got one. One click. Where are you? You're in depravity is where you are. And so am I. And I'm trying to build a bastion inside my heart not to do that because it gets in the way with the search for truth. Hey, you know what? I'm not judging anybody. I'm speaking for myself, an I statement. I don't want to give my precious little time left on this planet to wasting my time with tomfoolery. I want to search for truth, and it takes work. I have to build that. And we're going to play at the end tonight. We're going to play a concert from Oakland in 1977. Leonard Skinner in a room, just a stadium full of crazy people. I could have been there. And when you look at that, you say, wow, how can you search for truth when, money's for nothing and the chicks are free? Because that's the way it was. So we're going to go out with that. So we're all working against that. We've become over material and not enough spiritual, and we're unbalanced. And that's the theme of the podcast, the Professor Penn podcast. But Roy stood there for an hour. And I'm going to tell every American citizen and the leftists, you got to check this out because we're not left, we're not right. The Republican Party is changing. The Democrat Party is changing. Change after decades of being locked into a dynamic of conflict which kept everybody in the same spot. Now things are changing. And yes, we're the Republican Party. I'm an officer of the party. And we have a platform and we have an agenda, ideology, but it changes. And we sat there as the audience and listened to Royce for an hour talk about things that were not necessarily left, not necessarily right. They were the search for truth. He was overturning long-held judgments. Now, you've watched the podcast, some of you since podcast one. And when I have a listener or viewer send me a text or put on X, I've watched every podcast. Boy, first of all, you've watched me grow into this, but you've seen all this material. Like I think 2 podcasts on Ronald Reagan, who's Saint Reagan in the quote unquote conservative movement. And the question was asked, when were the Mujahideen first in the White House? And people, Bush, people had all, no, the Mujahideen, which became the Taliban, were first in the White House under Ronald Reagan, and I played the tape of that. And I don't know if Royce watched that podcast, but he knew about it and I knew about it. But nobody else in the hundreds of people that were there knew that the first time the Taliban, or called the Mujahideen, were in the White House was under Reagan, because the CIA funded these people to fight the Soviet Union that had occupied Afghanistan and installed their own Trump dictator. Wrong word. Let's leave that out. Their own installed dictator, a guy named Najibullah, who eventually swung from a lamppost like Mussolini. But, people there were not receptive to that because Reagan is viewed as being a saint. Then Royce brought up another great issue that we've talked about here. What are we conserving, conservatives? 1946 or 1776? We're conserving 1946, and Royce brought out that the conservative movement is conserving the post-World War II Democrat liberal order. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. The words speak for themselves. Democrat liberal. And then here's what we're doing. We're conserving it. No, not Professor Penn. I want to conserve 1776. And the cornerstone is the rights that are granted to me by a creator, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then we went downstream a little bit. People like John Quincy Adams were saying, hey, we're not getting involved in these foreign entanglements like George Washington cautioned us. We're not going to create monsters overseas, because if we do that and we get involved militarily all over the world, we're going to lose the character of freedom here in America, which is exactly what's happening, which Roy spoke about so eloquently. So there's going to be lots of these events. So I'm urging you, if you're in Arkansas or you're in Oregon or if you're in Florida, this is a movement of the American citizens. It's not about Royce White. It's not about Donald Trump. They're great salesmen that are going to articulate our feelings that we've been screwed and tattooed and we've had enough of it. We're done. We're done being lied to. We're done. Here in Minnesota, they run this guy out here, Joe Fraser, 26-year naval intelligence veteran. He's got the charisma of a potted plant. He's, you know, right out of Central Casting, works for Wells Fargo Bank. I mean, this guy is as appealing as a piece of plywood, which is going to be appropriate because we're going to be talking about Rudy Boschwitz in a minute. And, Rudy made his money selling plywood. Rudy's selling Joe Frazier. It's a perfect metaphor for what we're talking about here. Rudy deals in plywood, and he's selling plywood again. We're going to get to it in a minute. We got this great candidate, what I'm trying to get to after this long preamble, and tell me if you agree with me. Was Royce vulnerable, real, and connecting with that audience at a human level, in your opinion?
Yeah, that was the beautiful thing that I took away from the night, was that it really did feel like you're just sitting around like a Thanksgiving dinner table listening to one of your family members that, yeah, they can use some harsh language and they can say some things that you may not agree with, but it's honest. And like that's all you really want. And I really appreciated, even in the crowd, there were some of the things he would say, and I would hear someone over my shoulder go, I disagree with that. But then the next point, they would agree with it, and they were still cheering him on. And I thought that that was something so beautiful, that like that crowd could disagree with some of his points, but still listen and hear him out, ask the questions that they have. I thought that that was amazing, because it's kind of dumb to expect that you can agree with a politician completely across the board. It's just unnatural. If you agree with a politician all the way, they're lying to you.
You might be in a cult. You
Yeah,
could be
yeah.
a cultist,
Yeah.
right? You have lost your critical faculty.
Yeah, you should be able to think, because even in the household, it's like me and my girlfriend, we get along well, but there's some things we disagree on. Doesn't mean I love her any less. So I kind of feel that it was a lot more of a raw experience. It kind of felt like you're actually a part of the politics instead of just having a salesman. Like, you're saying salesman, but he's the salesman that's bringing the people with him. I don't, if that makes
He's
sense.
representing the people.
Yeah, and that's
I
the
mean,
way it should be.
And we call them elected representatives because they're our representatives. The reason the country's so screwed up is we've abdicated our power by not being involved in politics. So you go to precinctstrategy.com, you get into the game of politics, you become a delegate, you become a force multiplier. How's your list of 20 people coming along? Have you made your list of 20 people? I was at the deal, and there's a lot of people that watch the podcast that were there. Thank you very much. And one of them, Eric, you're going to hear this. Thank you. This is a young man. He ran for office. He came up to me. I've seen him at many events. We're starting to build a relationship. And that's what I was saying to the people that I was meeting there. Man, we're not going to use people. We're going to tell people the truth. We're going to know them as community members. We're going to build a community. And then Eric walked up to me. And he said to me, I've made my list of 20 people. And it was a complete non sequitur. I mean, I barely know this guy. I'm just getting to know him. And I didn't even know he was watching the podcast. So the first thing came out of my mouth was, did you get that on the podcast? He says, yeah, I'm watching the podcast. Wow. Thank you. But the important part was he resonated with the idea of being his own candidate, which he's been a candidate, and building his own constituency and pushing out his own content. And if we all started doing that, if the small little audience that we got here, first of all, please bring people to the podcast, because the algos don't work for the Professor Penn podcast. But you bring people in and we start building out this political community, and come follow me on X. We start building out that political community, and you follow Royce on Please Call Me Crazy and Hebrews, and you follow Royce, and we build out this community, and we become quite a potent political force. Those 20 people could become thousands of people, tens of thousands of people. That's a movement of the people. We're not going to sit around and wait to see it on television. We are the news. We don't want to watch the news. We want to make the news. Isn't that cool? That's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah,
You're
you're coming up with a bunch of
short,
one-liners.
doesn't it? That's a short. We don't want to watch the news. We, the people, want to make the news. I'm not interested in what they tell me I'm supposed to know. I'm interested in telling them what they need to hear. So when you get a candidate or an elected representative that actually represents their constituency, and I mean the people, not Boeing, not Raytheon, not the military-industrial complex, not the medical-industrial complex, not the media-industrial complex, not the university-industrial complex. Not those people. They can go bite a hog in the ass. I'm talking about the people like me that go to work every day concerned about the well-being of my children, my family, the people that work with me, that I work so hard to keep them in jobs. I have concerns. Why am I less than somebody that's got $1 billion? I'm not less. We're all created equal. Remember? Where am I here? I lost myself because it was such a great event last night. We're going to do more of them. We're going to live stream them. But whatever state you're in, if you're a delegate, now Royce is exceptional, but there's a Royce White exceptional citizen in every city, in every state. You got to go find them, and you got to help them grow. You got to get behind them and talk with them and build a community for them. Because one candidate who becomes a senator does not make the change that's going to save my ass. We have 19, maybe, legitimate American citizen-centric senators out of 100. We need 60 to get the job done. We got a long way to go, and we don't have a lot of time to do it. So please find that person in your area and meet them. Because if they're too busy to meet with you, they're the wrong guy or gal. Find a person that you can meet with, sit with, that's in the community, that you can talk to, that person that'll listen to you, and you listen to them, and form a community around them, and make the community of American citizens the center of the action, not the politician. That's how we abdicate. We abdicate our power by giving it away. And then we sit around and complain. Oh, woe's me, life's no good. And that's got to stop. That is no good. The power is in us. We the people. And the people are coming. And boy, we better come fast, because every time we do the news that matters, every time we go through the news that matters, we know how important it is to pick up the pace. Drums of war. U.S. and Israel signed yet another $3 billion deal. Israel's going to receive 25 F-35 fighter jets. That's our best kit. And, Israel's getting an extra $17 billion this year. That's on top of the $3.8 billion annual grant that is given to Israel every year, signed by guess who? Barack Obama. Now, you would think Barack Obama, who is, doesn't have great relations with the Jewish community, didn't have great relationships with Israel, you would think he would not have put together a 10-year funding for Israel. But he did. He signed it. Barack Obama. Barack Obama. Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein Obama. And Joe Frazier. Same guy. If you can get that one, I'll go real far for you. You know those Mujahideen, those Pashtuns in Afghanistan, and conservative Republicans? Same people. When you can get that far, now you can take a while to wrap your head around that one. I get it. But when we recognize how these systems interact energetically, who's paying who to do what and why, then we'll understand how far we are from having the country, the United States of America, America the Beautiful, which Ray Charles sang so beautifully about to open the show. General Dynamics has opened a new 155 millimeter shell factory in Mesquite, Texas. I got a lot of business in Texas. Good for Texas. Lots of more employment. More jobs, more jobs, more jobs. But the output of those jobs is not toasters. It's 155 millimeter artillery shells, which are going to kill people. Don't like that, because those that live by the sword will die by the sword. We don't want to do that, because our entire country is down with this idea of empire. We're just starting as American citizens to recognize that if you have an empire, there's no borders, and we're going to have to pay for it. And where's the money go? Oh, General Dynamics gets the money. Go look up who owns General Dynamics. I don't have to look it up. I know without looking. It's BlackRock, State Street. And where's your money? Did you know half the country has money in the stock market?
Yeah.
You did know that?
Yes, I did.
I didn't know that. I thought it was like 20%. I looked it up. I was arguing at home with my significant other. We were arguing. We don't agree about everything. And what I recognized was we're all in on this deal. Unless you're the 50% like me, I don't have any stocks. I don't like it. It's not my thing because I don't want to invest my money in killing people. So as long as that stock market keeps going up, everybody's, oh, hey, life's good, right? Ain't right? Isn't that how that works? Look at my 401k. I'm just balling here. Everything's good. Look at the stock market. Isn't it going great? Well, what are you invested in? You're invested in your own death. That's what you're invested in. Maybe it's a little too honest. Maybe I'm being a little too honest. I'm sorry. This is about the search for truth. If you have a 401k and you take a look at your portfolio and you look at what's making that market go up, General Dynamics. They're going to be producing 30,000 155 millimeter shells per month. And the target is to get it up to 100,000 shells per month by 2025. What are they going to do with those shells? They're not stocking them. They're killing people with them because that's how you get reorders. Just like the tire business. I got a warehouse of tires, right? If I don't sell them, I don't buy more tires. But nobody really gets killed directly by my tire business. I was driving in this morning. I had a moment. I thought to myself, man, you ever see the movie Schindler's List? Do you know the movie Schindler's List? Oskar Schindler. Oskar Schindler saw there was a war. He wasn't, he was kind of a loser. He said he stuck a Nazi pin on his lapel, and he went and he got in the pot and pan business, supplying pots and pans to the German military. And he had a good life from that. I was thinking, you know what? Maybe Professor Penn should get into the military supply business because those are the only people making any money. It was just a fantasy. I'm entitled to let my mind drift anywhere it wants to because it's so hard to make money the traditional way of just providing a good and a service. President Macron of France is working to finalize a plan to send French troops to the Ukraine. I wonder how President Putin's going to think about that. Global food prices are on the rise for the third straight month, fueling instability risks in the developing world. In other words, a hungry man is an angry man. Remember that one? Bob Marley. A hungry man is an angry man. A hungry man is an angry man. When the cost of getting food rises to a certain level of a person's income, people just go out in the street with clubs and torches and burn the place down. And, things are getting more expensive. Food. I think Henry Kissinger said, who controls the food controls the people. Well, the people had enough of it. That's what we're doing here in Minnesota. The people are coming. And I just wanted to go over some of the recent election results, which shocked the world. In Germany, Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democratic Party had its ass handed to them. They just got 14% of the votes in the recent election, a historic low for the party. Losing control. I'm talking about, the left losing control. A conservative alliance of the Christian Democratic Union, the CDU, and the Christian Social Union took home almost 30% of the vote. Christian. Huh? The far-right Alternative for Germany party, also classified by some here in this country as a Nazi movement, which it's not, it's a people's movement, took second in Germany with 16.5% of the vote. It was a massive 5.5% increase compared with the last election in 2019. Hey, that's a lot of peer-to-peer engagement. A lot of lists of 20 people talking to each other going, hey, this isn't working for me. A similar result was seen in Austrian polling. The far-right FPOE party led the vote count. The Freedom Party gained 27% of the vote, ahead of the ruling People's Party. Okay, great. France, the National Rally won a historic 31.5% of the vote, forcing President Macron to dissolve his national parliament. Why, of course, because he's going to send troops to the Ukraine, and people are saying, well, what's the distance from France to the Ukraine? It's walking distance, not very far. Germany, AfD surged and became the second largest party. Belgium, the prime minister resigned after his crushing defeat by the right. Italy, Meloni's Brother of Italy party won in a historic landslide. Spain, the right beat the left by 10%. The list goes on and on. Isn't this interesting? The people are coming. The people are coming. The people are coming. And just in the nick of time, right? I know something about trade. I do know something about trade. And trade's underneath all of this, right? Because we've traded away the lives and livelihoods of American citizens for the profits of the elites who have offshored our manufacturing in part of this globalist strategy. And that's where this really started, long before these wars broke out, which should be scaring you, right? Because if you have kids, they're going to war. If you're military family and you like that, okay. I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, I understand it. I completely get it. In fact, I had one of my best ass-kicking buddies come to run security, back up the play last night just in case. I mean, I know who these people are. I spent a lot of time with them and love them. But trade was underneath all this, and our trade deficit is growing, and trade is going to reemerge as a major issue in this election. Mexico has now surpassed China as the largest trading power with the United States. That's not because Mexico is growing so much. It's because Chinese companies are going into Mexico now to use the USMCA to penetrate the United States market. So we have a big influx. It's giant, a giant influx of Chinese investment into Mexico, something that President Trump did not foresee when he created the USMCA. Now, China's share of the trade deficit is narrowed to just 26%, but that's because they've decentralized their manufacturing. They're in Thailand and Vietnam and Indonesia and Pakistan and Spain and Serbia and Malaysia and Mexico. They're everywhere. So it's really Chinese companies that are running up this debt. And I respect the Chinese, let me tell you, and I've said this, I'm going to keep saying it. These people are smart, they're hardworking, they don't want a war, they just want all your money. They want every dime they want to clean you out. Because to them, they know if there's an actual kinetic war, everybody loses. They don't want that. And it's not about the people dying. It's about the infrastructure getting blown up. They see that as very inefficient. They built this great infrastructure. They don't want to rebuild it. They want to make money with it. The Chinese people are ultra, uber materialist. And they want every dime I have. They want every dime Tanner has. And the reason they want that is it's revenge for them. They were colonized. They were called the sick man of Asia. They were colonized by the Japanese, by all the Western European powers, including the United States, and they were exploited. The Chinese people were exploited. They were run over the top of. They were used. They were used as in a drug to sell drugs. They were used for low-cost labor. They were really disrespected, and there's a lot of anti-Chinese racism in the United States of America. All you got to do is go back and look at the history of immigration law, and you'll see how much anti-Chinese racism exists here in the United States of America. Because I've studied Chinese culture since I'm 19 and married into the culture, and I have daughters that are Mandarin speakers, and I've been to China a lot. I don't have that racism, but I do object that I'm trying to win. That American part of me, the part of me that plays football, the part of me that likes to fight, I'm not going to bend the knee. But it's not about fighting them militarily. It's about restoring the productivity and the manufacturing base for American citizens here in the good old US of A. We're going to have to do that. That's a big part of the people's movement, is making our goods here, not being dependent on other countries. Not being dependent. Being interdependent is different than being codependent. And in Mexico this past week, they have presidential elections there once every 6 years, and I'm going to report to you that the Mexican people, in a landslide, elected a self-described communist. So now on our border, just south of the Rio Grande, we have a communist, first female president of the country. Her name is Claudia Sheinbaum. There's a lot on X that she's Jewish. And that's that anti-Semitic thing going on. She's not into being Jewish. She's into being a communist. She's a communist. She's not a Jew. She's an anti-Jew. Because you can't be a communist and a Jew at the same time. And that's like matter and antimatter. Not all Jews are communists. There's actually religious Jews. They're different than the anti-Jews. Got to get that straight. We're going to be talking about that in just a couple of minutes. And interestingly, not only did she win, but their entire government is now communist. So Mexico is a communist country right on our border. And I have a lot of connections in Mexico. In fact, I do business in Mexico, and I talk to some of my friends down there. Oh, well, things aren't going to change that much, but Mexico will be much more closely integrating with the United States. They must be expecting us here in the United States to be communists also. Isn't that great? In other words, we, the American citizens, if we want to maintain our founding documents, because see, when they have complete control, which they do, they're going to change the Constitution. They're going to change their whole way government works down there. They're going to be communist in Mexico for a very long time because they're going to rig the system to maintain one-party rule, which is exactly what we're going through up here in the United States. You know, it used to be two parties working together, complementarianism, antagonists in complementarianism. That's not what we have now. Now we have a battle until one side wins and one side loses. No working together. And when they start talking about bipartisanship and the importance of reaching our hands across the aisle, what that means is I, American citizen David Penn, is permanently going to be inventory. Because that uni-party, Democrats and Republicans together in bipartisanship, those are the folks that are ruling over me. That's the dynamic. The elite rulers and the ruled. That's what they got in Mexico now. And the people voted for it. I guess we'll have to talk some more about that. Well, we're going to talk about rule of law tonight, but we're going to run out of time. So we're going to leave that to the end if we get there. Tanner, there's a beautiful picture of Frank Zappa, if you can put that up. This is we talked about Frank. I'm just going to have this up for a second. Look at this quote. This is a great quote. Politics is the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex. Frank's been dead since 1993. Obviously, he was decades ahead of his time. Decades. Frank Zappa, his band was called the Mothers of Invention. The Mothers of Invention. You know, he was just like the rest of us coming up in the post-World War II Democrat liberal order. But Frank had eyes to see and ears to hear. Politics is the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex. Well, let's look at their representatives. Could you pop up this Joe Frazier endorsed picture? Well, here we got something it's not really a bombshell, but we've got an endorsed candidate. We went to that convention. We've talked about it. The Minnesota Republican Party, on the first ballot, 67% or more of the elected delegates to the party convention voted for Royce on the first ballot. And within the party, it's always been said, unity. If you're a candidate and you lose and there's an endorsed candidate, drop out, because the party wants to put all of its resources behind the endorsed candidate. But that's not what's happening with Royce. I know some of you are following the intense smear campaign being waged by people that are, some of them are really, truly disgusting. They're so disgusting. And this is an interesting thing, too, as a sidebar. Professor Penn believes in dialogue, healing, reconciliation, and redemption. And I try to talk to people on X or face-to-face in the hopes that we can find common ground as citizens. Boy, I'm wrong with some of these people that are smearing Royce. We got people on X. They're not good people. And when I say they're not good, they're just not good people. I mean, this is my opinion. I'm not a judge. I'm in my opinion. And I'm stuck in this conundrum because on the one hand, I know if I unleashed on these people, because they're not that good at what they do. If I unleashed on, really took out my intellectual sword, I could cut them up like a salami. I don't want to do that. There's other people that can do that. And if you're following me on X and you want to do that, please proceed. I would like to be in my own political career a voice of reconciliation, redemption, and unity, because I know that every nationalist is a reformed conservative. And so I'm looking to create a constituency for this movement of citizens that we have conservatives and, leftists and radicals and nihilists. And because when you give over to a movement of the people and you're really doing this for the well-being of your fellow citizens, it's very healing. And I know it's healing because I've done it and I've gotten the benefits. I have the energy. I have the intensity. I have the will to do something good, which, I was never a particularly bad person, but, I was, relative to how I am now, I was selfish. I was concerned about my own bank book and my own family, and the rest of you, go bite a hog in the ass. I got mine, go get yours. That didn't work. That was kind of a libertarian philosophy in a way. So it's a failed philosophy. To my associate Joshua, who may or may not be listening to this, libertarianism failed. It's just failed. The result? Look around. Conservatism failed. How do I know? Look around. If you like this, if you think this is good, in my opinion, you're just not a very good person. You have a different drummer you're marching to than Professor Penn. But my conundrum is, I really don't want to attack people unless they attack me. And then I rose up to defend Royce a time or two because, I know what's going on. I try to talk civilly and bring people, like invite them to meet with me or invite them to an event or try to shine light on the, scurrilous allegations that are being made from a different perspective. And people attack me. I can think of some names, man. These people suck. And, I want to cut them up, but I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to tell you why. These people are not relevant. So here's the conundrum. They deserve to get smacked around. They really do. Intellectually, of course. Unless you step on my blue suede shoes. That's a different level. But if it's just intellectual, these people are weak intellectually. Like, for example, people are criticizing Royce. They're on Joe Frazier's payroll. I'm not getting a penny out of this. In fact, I'm willing to go broke for the people's movement. It's more important to me than anything I got going on in my life. I'd give up everything to see my fellow citizens find the search for truth. I'd give up everything. Everything. When I make that move, that's healing. So I see these people attacking the movement. Royce just being the leader. They're attacking the movement. They're not attacking Royce. They hate the ideas. They hate the idea. They hate the idea of a nation state. They believe in America as an empire run by the military-industrial complex. They like the British business model of slavery, drugs, and piracy. They're down with it. They're defending it. And they see Royce as a threat to that, so they call him unqualified and this, that, thus, and so. And man, I want to get up. He's my friend. I want to attack these people. But if we get our thing going, if you make your list of 20 people, if you see yourself as a candidate and you build your own constituency, if you're continuously putting out content, if you're going to meetings, if you have the courage to express your political philosophy to all the people in your life and then teach them to do it. These people, they're not even lint. They're not worth my time because they're irrelevant. The people that are trying to rule me, make a debt slave out of me, addict me to drugs, take my children and use them as cannon fodder in foreign wars. These people are irrelevant if we, the people, organize and express ourselves politically. There's a handful of these people. They're assholes. And they have no problem acting like one woman called me a fake professor. I've said on here a bunch of times, it's a stage name. But those of you who watch this podcast know there's real information here. And if you want to put in the live chat or the comments, many of you been to college. I mean, is this some kind of lowbrow deal we're doing here? Or are we really searching for truth together? And when you go to college and they don't teach you half the story, what the hell is that? I mean, what does it profit my children if their education is half-baked? Do you eat a half-baked potato? Will you eat a half-cooked steak?
Hell no.
You're
Well,
gonna-
wait, no. A steak, yeah, that's rare.
Okay,
That'd be
great.
rare steak,
How
but a
about not cooked
potato,
at all? How about not cooked at all?
absolutely not.
Okay, 'cause it's going to kill your ass, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's what our education system is. It's half-baked. They're leaving out half the story. Half the story has never been told. These people want to run around and lord over me with their degrees and their professorships, and they're teaching half the story. And they were taught by a secondhand jerk-off, and a secondhand jerk-off taught their instructor. We're into the fourth generation of PhDs that are promoting. What are they promoting? The post-World War II Democrat liberal order, as if it's the end of history. It's the best, the most perfect, it's the best man can do. And it's overturning 5,700 years of tradition. Well, if you're going to overturn 5,700 years of culture, you better know what the hell you're doing. And guess what? Look around. Does it look to you like these geniuses know what they're doing? Is this a well-being society? Is this society being created for the well-being of my children? Or are my children going to be asked to go defend the border of the Ukraine or Estonia or Latvia or Lithuania or Taiwan or Pakistan and India? I mean, we got all these deals going on all over the world. It has nothing to do with me. Who brainwashed me to make me believe that this was my life? I mean, we believe this. We believe that the military should take $1.5 trillion, $2 trillion a year. We believe it. We believe that healthcare is $2 trillion a year. We believe it. We believe it so much we vote for it and we pay for it. We believe this whole deal. I believe it. Until one day I woke up. So we have these two dudes. We're going to leave out Governor Tim Pawlenty because, as it says, if you're lukewarm, you're going to get spit out. So we're going to leave him out. He ran as a Republican. I don't know if he was a woozy or a wazy. What the hell was he? I don't know. But we have two senators, famous people, here in Minnesota, Senator Norm Coleman and Senator Rudy Boschwitz, both of who I know personally. And there's a little bit of a failure. I'm going to say I could have run to these people. I mean, I've been with Rudy. Rudy's come to my events, and I've spoken with him, and I've known Norm for a very long time. Of course, the Penn, Norm, if you're hearing this, my mother's Barbara Penn. I know how you feel about her because Norm was a Democrat mayor of St. Paul in the 1990s when my mom was holding sway in the Democrat Party big time. And Norm, because Norm likes to go where the action is, Norm became a Republican. He crossed over the Rubicon, so to speak, as Royce mentioned last night. So he's another woozy-wazzy, what is he? And he became a Republican. My mom did not like Norm Coleman, and she worked against him with great vigor. But I just sat at a table and had dinner with Norm within the last 2 years. And guess where we were? We were having dinner together with Nikki Haley. Yes, we were. And why was I there? Because they didn't know who I was. So I got invited. It's okay, people make mistakes. I had a very pleasant conversation with Norm, and I thought about calling Norm to meet with him about Royce. And I thought about calling Senator Boschwitz and meeting with him. But these people represent party insiders. And these party insiders lost at that convention. So while I'm out here trying to get things going and running and working at, with Free the People radio, and I got a tire business and I got kids, and these people got nothing better to do because they lost. They got to mount a defense. Now, I don't know how relevant this endorsement is because I'm going to tell you, when you mention the name Norm Coleman at that event last night, cat calls. Do you remember that when we talked about that? People weren't so happy with.
No.
They didn't like these people, did they?
No.
How'd they feel about the GOP, the Minnesota Republican Party?
What do you mean?
When the Minnesota Republican Party came up at the meeting last night, how did people respond to that?
I'm sorry, I can't actually remember what. I know that they were a crowd of passionate people. There was a lot of gasps and a lot of disagreements and a lot of things.
Well, see, this is a young man, right? I'm in the party. So I'm talking about party unity. And these people don't like me because I'm talking about party unity. They don't want unity. They want these people out. O-U-T-ski. And what I'm saying is every nationalist is reformed conservative. But these two guys, these two senators, let's just talk about who they are. Let's start out with Senator Norm. I'm just going to read something that he wrote. Listen to this. You might like this. And I'm no big Trump. I support Trump, going to vote for Trump. But I've said, and someone asked me not to say this anymore, so I'm going to listen to you. But here's what Norm said. I won't vote for Donald Trump. I won't vote for Donald Trump because of who he isn't. He isn't a Republican. He isn't a conservative. He isn't a truth teller. He's not a uniter. Donald Trump isn't the leader America needs. And he goes on and on like this. He really runs them down. I won't vote for Donald Trump because he's a bigot, a misogynist, a fraud, a bully. This guy went deep into the bag to attack President Trump. Now, this is in 2016. This was published. I pulled this right down. You can go find it too. Norm Coleman was a never Trumper. But now he supports Trump because, Norm, he's a woozy, he's a wazzy. What is he? He's whatever he needs to be to pursue his aim. And what he really is he's running an organization called the Republican Jewish Committee, which is a lobby group which endorses and promotes candidates who will support Israel. That's what he's doing. I'm an American Jew. So I'm going to tell you, it's very triggering for me to talk about this. Norm Coleman never met with Royce White. Norman Coleman has no idea what Royce White thinks about Israel, America's relationship with Israel, or what Royce thinks about the Jewish people. He never asked, and he didn't care. His daughter, Julia Coleman, is an elected state senator here, And she went right after Royce because Royce has spoken about Louis Farrakhan, and he's talked about certain things which trigger the hell out of these anti-Jews. They don't want the search for truth. They want allegiance to their truth. So Norm came out, and Norm, if you're hearing this, I'll sit down with you anytime. Love to talk to you. I'll bring Royce, and you might want to recant an endorsement for a potted plant. Because the idea here is to defeat the sitting Senator Amy Klobuchar. Oh, but Amy Klobuchar is a fantastic supporter of Israel. And she's already got 18 years under her belt. So maybe the idea is we're just going to go along with Amy Klobuchar, right? Because Mr. Fraser couldn't get elected dog catcher. He just doesn't have the juice. That's what it is. I don't want to rep on him. So that's not the point. If he was charismatic, it'd be a different deal. But he's just not. I've seen him in action. He's actually irritating. Hard to be a candidate when your personality is actually birth control. That's tough. If your personality is birth control, hard to mate. And that's what the Republican Party did not endorse. They endorsed a young man who's very charismatic and can actually deliver votes from the inner cities, which Donald Trump needs to win Minnesota. And these guys, what are they doing? Here's a never-Trumper who now is kind of cool on Trump, because what did Trump do? He put the U.S. Embassy into Jerusalem, which made all the Jews, okay, man, maybe Trump's okay with the Jewish people. But maybe not. They'd be much happier to see Nikki Haley win, but these people are politicians. They know, don't stick your neck out because you could lose your neck. So Norm, after writing, I will never vote for Donald Trump. He isn't a Republican, he isn't a conservative, and he isn't a truth teller. After writing that down, now he's for Trump. Do you believe him? I don't. I don't believe him at all. Because he's a Democrat, then he's a Republican. He's not against Trump. He's for Trump. He's a woozy, he's a wazzy. What is he? I don't know. I don't know what you are, Norm. But if you'd like to know who Royce is and how he can be of benefit to our society and help Republicans actually win in Minnesota, I'd love to arrange the meeting. Rudy Boschwitz. Rudy was a senator here. Now, Norm was a one and out. Norm won, became a senator, and he was defeated by Al Franken. He was a one-term senator, and that was a kind of a strange deal because he lost by 300 votes. Who knows where those votes came from? But, Norm found a career as a lobbyist. Oh, guess what? He also works for Hogan Lovells, and he's a lobbyist for Saudi Arabia. So he's running the Republican Jewish lobby, and he's a lobbyist for Saudi Arabia. Hey, maybe that's a good thing. That's maybe how Israel and Saudi Arabia are going to have a peace treaty someday. Not everything is black and white. So I don't want to run Norm down 100%. There's a lot I always liked about Norm Coleman. A lot. Takes a lot of stones to go from Democrat to Republican and face off against my mother and her cohorts. Guy's got some courage. But he never met Royce. And that, to see him jump up and endorse like that without really doing his due diligence and knowing that there's party insiders that went to him and put him up to it, even though we're supposed to have unity, Norm, that hurts. I'm hurt. I really am hurt. And I'd like a chance to talk to you about it. And then there's Rudy. Rudy, the first time I personally met him, because Rudy is a Jewish man, came from Germany. And he looked at me and Rudy's been around a while, okay? So we got two, you got this in the black community, you probably got in a lot of communities. We got different kinds of immigrants, right? So we had these German immigrants, these German Jews that came. Hey, they came with the cash, baby. They were a different group of cats. My people came off the farm. Rudy came from Berlin. And Rudy ended up opening up and running a very ultra successful business called Plywood, Minnesota. And my family, well, hey, guess what? we're barely getting by because we didn't come with money and we're still trying to figure it out. We came from the Ukraine. And Rudy looked at me, and I'm going to tell you, there's no love lost between the St. Paul Jews where I grew up and the German Jews of Minneapolis where Rudy grew up because they're two different cultures. The German culture, those people thought they were Germans, and us Ukrainians, hey, we got raped and robbed by the Russians and killed by the Ukrainians. We were a beat down group of people. Rudy's family left to escape the Nazis. Everything is complex. Okay, so I'm not saying things are black and white. He had to run, his family had to run away. But I met Rudy, and the first thing he did, he looked at me and goes, in Yiddish, he spoke to me. And he asked me if I was a landsman, which is a very enduring term for the group of people that I grew up with. Rudy's not a landsman, but he was trying to break bread with me. That's cool. And he came up on my stage in my event, and he had 10 minutes to talk, and he spoke for an hour and wrecked the event. And we tried to get him off the stage, and Rudy said, hey, I'm Rudy, shut up. I'm Rudy and you're not, which is exactly the kind of attitude that we, the people, want to overturn. I don't want to be ruled. And Rudy had a long career in the Senate. And you know what Rudy's doing now? He's a fellow on the Council of Foreign Relations, the CFR. We've talked about it. We really don't have time to delve into it too deeply. But the CFR, its roots were in the World War I period. It was a group of academics that were brought together by Woodrow Wilson to plot out the development and the ascendancy of what they called the New World Order. The CFR is the intellectual incubator of the New World Order here in the United States. There's a sister organization in England called Chatham House, which does the same thing in England. And these two groups working together, and really it was the British coming into our intellectual institutions through the CFR. In other words, this was a British Crown invention to take over the universities and the foreign policy of the United States of America and turn us into the bouncer for the Crown. That's what it is. And so Rudy's down with that. He's a European, born in Europe, has all those European sentiments, believes in the CFR's doctrine of globalism, which is we're going to have world government. The CFR is about world governance. So this guy is a virulent anti-Trumper. To this day, he's an anti-Trumper. Norm's hiding. Okay, Norm, you go ahead and hide. Okay, that's cool. But I want to, if I can find this, which might be tough, I'm going to read a little bit about Norm's recent activity. So Nikki Haley was recently in Minnesota, and she held an event here. And Rudy Boschwitz attended the rally, and he endorsed Nikki Haley. So he endorsed Nikki Haley, and he endorsed Joe Frazier. Do you get it, America? Do you get it? Rudy Boschwitz on the CFR, a man of great respect, 93 years old, a statesman, worked at the United Nations under who? Under George Bush, a man at the center of globalism, endorsed Joe Frazier, and he endorsed Nikki Haley. And I just want to take a shot at someone along the way here. Representative Kristen Robbins, Republican Maple Grove, was in on this deal, and she said, and I will quote, introducing Nikki Haley to the crowd, she argued that Minnesota has a, quote, strong anti-establishment streak. You mean Nikki Haley's anti-establishment? She is the establishment. She's the sine qua non of globalism. What a lie. Don't you love? See, we had Royce White telling truth for an hour, and then answering questions for 2 hours. Whatever question, so real. So, and here we got a representative that's elected that's saying that Nikki Haley is a strong anti-establishment person. And here's what I said. I will not attack any Republicans unless they lie. When they lie, when you lie, we're going to call you out because this is a search for truth. Calling Nikki Haley anti-establishment, that's a intergalactic level of lying, okay? I mean, you can't get much farther out there than that. At least Rudy is openly on the CFR and openly a globalist. That's who he is. And he endorsed Fraser, and he endorsed uh, Haley, and Norm Coleman endorsed Fraser. But, he's on that Republican, Jewish committee, so he's got to be careful because, Trump could win. So he just got to be very careful, very political, very smart. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. I'm a woozy. I'm a wazy. I'm whatever I need to be to get done what I want to do. Okay, great. So those two endorsed Fraser. But what I'm saying to you is who endorsed them are globalists, and their interest is Israel. And I said, this is very triggering for an American Jew because I love the Jewish people. But there's a difference between the Jewish people and people that are fronting as Jews. Big difference. I grew up with very religious people. All of them were opposed to Israel. All of them when I was a kid. Because they knew that Israel was started by non-religious, anti-religious Zionists, socialists that had come out of the European experience and set up a deal in the Holy Land that was non-religious. And this pissed the religious off. Really pissed them off. My family didn't go there. And I had guilt about that because I had two first cousins. You like their names, Fishel and Ruvain. Of course, I'm Benjamin. So, hey, back then, nobody was hiding with these Americanized names. Like I meet these dudes from China, right? Hey, my name's David Penn, and your name is? My name's Frank. Frank? Your name's not Frank. Well, what's your name? Hey, my name's Bill. You can take any name you want to, right? Because who's going to really check? So, I was Benjamin Laib, and my two cousins, first cousins, Fishel and Ruvain. Hey, one of those two cousins, he is carrying a gun over there in Israel right now. And I was always feeling guilty about that. Because I thought, man, this guy's brave and he's defending the faith. Because what happened was the religious went to Israel because they saw all these anti-Jews taking the place over. And they said, whoa, that's where the wall is. We're not going to turn the holy sites of Judaism over to a bunch of communists. We're going to go over there. So a bunch of religious people went over there to defend it. They didn't want to get in on the Zionist thing. They wanted to defend Judaism. They didn't want anti-Jews to take over the Holy Land because then it would become not a holy land. It would become a militarized industrial complex land. And guess who won that deal? So my forebears came to the United States on purpose. They could have gone to Israel. I got a half a family that's left because most of them died at the hands of the Ukrainians. However, those that survived, half went to Israel, half came to the United States. The ones that came to the United States rejected Zionism. They came here to be religious Jews in the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we are promised freedom of religious practice in our Constitution, in our Bill of Rights. And then we have these Jews that gave up the faith here, and they became Americans, and I would be one of them. I remember my grandmother told me, my son, be an American. So I'm not trying to cast any stones at these people because my experience and their experience is quite similar. But I still daven. I still pray. I still pray right with you. I've never seen any of these people pray. I've never seen any of them mention God. If you're a globalist, you're anti-God. Because if you're a globalist and you're asking for global governance, that is the opposite, the antagonist of self-governance. So what these people are doing, what they're doing is so sad. They're endorsing the military-industrial complex. And what they're doing it for is they want to make sure Israel and the Jewish people are protected. But once they do that, it's whatever our military and our security state wants to do. Patriot Act, great. TikTok bill, great. Ukraine, great. South China Sea, great. Don't give up on any military adventure, lest Israel might be abandoned. In other words, we're going to have blind allegiance to the military, which is running our country. Our production for military hardware is expanding. More jobs, more money. Our stock market's going up because the military is making so much money. Our whole society is living by the sword. I don't want to die by the sword. That's why I'm part of this people's movement that brings faith and power back to the individual citizen. And could you please put up this picture of this woman here? See this picture? Let's get her pretty face up there. This is Michelle Benson. Michelle Benson. Michelle attacked me on X, and then she disappeared when she realized that I attacked back. I know her personally, and I want to make a comment about this. Michelle was going to work on the Joe Frazier campaign, from what I'm told. I don't have any 8x10 glossies. I could be incorrect, and if I'm incorrect, Michelle's welcome to call me and clarify it for me. But what I heard around the campfire from people in the know is she was going to work on the campaign. So she immediately started attacking Royce. She's a former state senator, a conservative. She's conservative 1946. She's an elitist. She was on the Constitution and Bylaws Committee of the Minnesota Republican Party, and they tried to change the Constitution of the Minnesota Republican Party so that it became a Democrat party. She was doing that. She's not going to like that I say that. But here's what these people believe. They believe that to get elected and have low taxes and low regulation, because that's what they want, because they don't have any other ideology, because they're willing to give up your gun rights, they're willing to give up the right to life, they're going to give up anything as long as the cash is good for them. Okay, great. That makes her a Marxist. She doesn't understand that. She's preserving the post-World War II Democrat liberal order. We're going to have to wake up. But she's an elitist. She stood up there and not every, but almost everything she tried to do at that convention was voted down by the same 935 delegates that affirmed Royce. So, of course, she's pissed at Royce, but she's not really pissed at Royce. She's pissed at us because the people are coming, and she's an elitist. And I have an experience with her. I met her before she knew who I was. Now she knows who I am now, but I met her, and she's not even going to remember meeting me. I met her, and I went up and shook her hand at an event. And I asked her a question, and she was so disrespectful to me. And I'm not a dummy. So when I ask a question, it's a good question. And her attitude was, okay, you ready? Off. That was her attitude to me. That's how I felt. She insulted me, she disregarded me, and she walked away from me. An American citizen, and she was running for governor at the time. And I thought to myself, wow, who is this woman? I'm trying to become her friend. I wasn't trying to alienate her. And I say this to all the people, like Michelle Benson. Every conservative out there has two choices now. Either you're going to continue down this path of supporting the military-industrial complex, or you can reform, redeem, repent, and become an American citizen, an American nationalist, and join the people. Because the people aren't coming, the people are here. I saw it in that room last night. This thing's going to continue to grow, to snowball, to expand. So she's endorsed Joe Frazier, and she was just standing on the stage as the main wing ding in the Constitution Committee. What kind of scam are we running here? We are to support. I've been told as an officer that I must support the endorsed candidates, and I've done it. Ask Jim Schultz, Michelle Benson, if I supported him, and ask Jim if we agree on everything. Jim is my friend. But see, unlike you, Jim went out to coffee with me. We talked. We became friends. I love Jim. We don't agree about a lot of stuff, but we talk because he's a good man. Took the time to get to know me, and he has my full support as a friend. And all I wanted to do was be your friend, to form a community where we could talk to each other, and basically you pissed on me. So that wasn't a good start. But if you'd like to recover, repair, redeem, I'm right here. You call me. contact me on X. We'll get together. We'll talk about it. I'll bring Royce, and you can understand more about what this movement is about. Understand what these citizens are about. I could bring 500 citizens with me, and we go to a town hall, and you and me could sit on the stage, and we could have a listening session. If you'd like to hear what these people have to say, they're the people that you represent. You don't get to represent your own ideas or the ideas of some donor class. Our representatives are our elected representatives. So take her picture down. I've seen her long enough. It's a very sincere offer. It's a little bit inside Minnesota politics today for everybody outstate. But guess what? Guess what? This is going on in every state. So look at Minnesota as your model that I'm sharing with you about how we're all proceeding in this citizens movement. We're going to go out with something I found something I thought was hilarious. This is a live concert scene from 1977, Oakland, Leonard Skinner. And I pulled it out because in the front row last night, there was a guy with a Leonard Skinner t-shirt with no sleeves in it, and he was tatted up like to the max. And I really didn't connect with him, but if he's watching this, man, it was a pleasure to see you there. And that Leonard Skinner t-shirt made me think of Leonard Skinner. So, why don't we play the entire, it's about a 12-minute piece. It's live. It's a long piece. We'll go out with it. Please stay around because at about 6 minutes and 45 seconds in, man, the guitar playing goes off the charts. And you're going to look at this, okay? Now here, these people are all my age. I could have been in that crowd. I'd have been about 20 years old, okay? And first of all, you see the freedom. We all ran off the rails there. I mean, this was sex, drugs, and rock and roll to the max. And people were having a really good time. So a lot of pictures of women, very few guys. This was the videographer. He had his interest, okay? You're going to notice this, okay? He had his interest. And the girls were going crazy. And I'm looking at these women, and I'm thinking to myself, how old are you now today, ladies? Oh, you're my age. And so, don't swear. And, strip clubs. Hey, ladies, I was there with you. I know things change over time, but some of us have memories. So we're going to go out with this memory. I wish you well. I wish you a great weekend, a well-being weekend. We're going to take it easy this weekend. I got a birthday. Sandy, my significant, Mrs. Professor Penn's got a birthday this weekend. I'm going to unplug and spend time with her. She's supporting me the best she can. And man, it's a strain on her because, hey, it's about the movement. I try to tell her all the time, I don't like politics. I wouldn't be doing this with you unless my freedom and my search for truth was on the line. And I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give out. We're going to do this together until we prevail and crush those that would take our freedom. Have a nice weekend. Thank you very much.
Have a good one, everybody.
I want to say thanks to Peter Frampton and thanks to Bill Graham and special thanks to you people for having us here to show today. It's always great here.
there's too many places I've got to see. But if I stay here with you, girl, things just couldn't be the same. I'm as free as I swear I am. Can I change? In the bird you cannot play it pretty for Oakland. Billy Powell, piano. Bye, bye, baby. It's been a sweet love. Oh, yeah, yeah. Though this feeling I can't change. But please don't take this so badly. 'Cause the Lord knows I'm to blame. If I stay here with you now, well, things just couldn't be the same. 'Cause I'm as free as a bird now. How about you, friend? And the birds will never change. Oh, and the bird cannot change. One of the great ones, Leonard Skinner. Let's hear it.